Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of NCompass Live. I am your host, Krista Burns, here at the Nebraska Library Commission. NCompass Live is Library Commission's weekly online event where we cover any sort of activities that may be of interest to librarians across the state. We do these sessions every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time. They are recorded, as this one is being, so if you can't attend one of our live sessions Wednesday mornings, you can always come back and watch all the recorded sessions later on. And we do a mixture of things here. We have workshop, little presentations, training sessions, Q&A sessions, just whatever we can come across. And we do sometimes have commission staff, and we do bring in guest speakers. And today we have a mixture of that. Next to me today, we have Laura Johnson, the CE coordinator.
Right.
Yeah.
Continuing Education Coordinator.
Yes. Sorry, I abbreviated it.
Well, it's okay, but not everyone seems to know what that
is. Yeah. Continuing Education Coordinator here at the Library Commission. And next to her is Devra Dragos, the Director of our Technology and Access Services Department, who's going to talk later in the session. And on the line with us, we have Andrew Sherman, who is the IT Librarian Coordinator at
Sump Memorial.
Sump Memorial Library
In Papillion.
In Papillion, yes, who is going to talk to us later about his attending a OverDrive event, OverDrive Digipalooza.
Mm-hmm.
But first we're going to start out with Laura, who's going to tell us a little bit about how Andrew got to go to this thing. Yeah, how he ended up there.
Well, good morning, everyone. We were so thrilled that we were able to make a CE grant to Andrew to go to Digipalooza, and I just wanted to take a few minutes here to talk about the CE grants because they are coming up this year. They will be available October 12th. The grant applications then are due November 23rd, and they will be announced on December 15th. These grants last until probably the next October, so you have months to accomplish the CE project that you had gotten grant applications for. And I did want to tell you a little bit about the CE grants because this is one of the programs we have to help support our libraries in their professional development endeavors. And to find out more about them, I thought we'd start at the main page here of the Nebraska Library Commission website so you can see that you can find them here. Go to Grants and Funding, and here's Continuing Education Grants. This will take us to the database where you can see what grants we have given and when, and this is all the different grants that the Commission gives. Then you can go to the Commission Grant Schedule. Let's make this page. May I?
I guess you'll cover up our camera view of ourselves, but if you'd rather, to make it easier to see, it is a little lighter on the page,
You'll see that this is the schedule for the grants, and they will be available, as I said, October 12th, and then you can go to the application. Now, the application for this year isn't up yet, but it would be very similar to this application. The CE grants are designed to help people go to programs. This is out of state. Okay, the grants are for Nebraska public libraries. They're to help people go to out-of-state events. You cannot get a grant to go to the Nebraska Library Association meeting, or we'd be sending everyone there, or to have a kind of a continuing education program in their library. You do need a match of 25%. So if you requested $1,000, you would want to have a match of $250. Some of that can be in kind. And all we really ask is that you have a good plan. That's really what we're looking for in an application, is a good plan. You need to turn in your application by November 23rd and then have the project completed by next October. We do ask for a little bit of a report, and that's what Andrew is coming to help us with today, is we ask him, since he went to Digipalooza, to share so that we not only, it's kind of the ripples in a body of water. Not only does Andrew get to the experience of conference going, but then he shares his experience with us.
And then we all get to live vicariously through him.
Yes, we do. That's the whole deal. So that's the CE grants. We hope some people will take advantage of them. We're going to hear from Andrew about his experience, and then we're going to talk a little bit about not only what he learned, but about the conference going experience in general. And then Devra is going to talk with us about OverDrive, which is what Digipalooza was about. So we kind of have a little bit of an omnibus, but we have a packed session today. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, if that's okay.
Oh, sure. You're all set with yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Laura before we jump over to Andrew?
About the CE grants?
About the CE grants or getting your credit or what you can attend?
Yeah. If you have questions anytime, just contact me. I'm happy to talk about it.
It doesn't look like anything urgent's coming in at the moment, but if you do have anything you think of during the session, just feel free to type it in, like I said, question section, and I'll grab it and interrupt and ask the question. We're good for now. Okay, and next we're going to have Andrew. Andrew, I've unmuted you again, and I believe we are going to hand over control to you. You've got some stuff you're going to show on your computer there, correct?
Yep.
Okay, hold on just a second. You should be getting the message about being a presenter.
All right. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, we are. And we see you on video, too. Hang on just a sec. Yeah.
Yep, Michael helped me with that, with the little app you guys like to use for running the cameras on your computers for this deal. Again, I'd like to again thank the NLC for the grant to go. It was a great experience. In my IT career, I've been to quite a few technical conferences, and OverDrive puts on a really, really good conference. They do it every 2 years. If you haven't been to one, I really recommend you make the effort to get out to it. It was a very, very good conference. What I have in Word is pretty much kind of the quick list. I don't know how many people have already received this through email. This went out to the NLC's mailing list and also to the Eastern Library System mailing list. My big thing I was really hoping we were going to get a lot more detail on is everybody, we've been waiting for them to support the Kindle. And we got there. They still had a lot of work they were trying to get done last minute to have it ready for the holidays. They were under what sounds like a pretty significant non-disclosure agreement with Amazon, so they couldn't share as much as they wanted to. So right now they're promising us to have Kindle support in time for the holidays this year. Would have been awesome to have it last year, but a year out from their e-reader explosion, I guess, is not too bad. There's a couple new features that you'll see as we go through this. You can pretty much see tie in directly to the Amazon deal. The second one is right now when we purchase eBooks or audiobooks, you have to purchase them in the format you want also. So for some reason, if you would need 2 different audio formats for an audiobook, you have to purchase one in one format, one in the other. That is going away, and I think it's obviously a direct result of the Kindle deal. The first one to go away will be the ebook requirement for that. You'll simply purchase an ebook title, and then depending on the device that the patron is using, it'll automatically download the correct format for that device. And what they will be doing is they're adding a kind of a little wizard to their website where you put in the device you're using as you go through it, and it will automatically pull the right format down to that device. So my assumption there is they will actually be supporting the Kindle format for ebooks, but that should, in the future when this release comes out, should be kind of invisible to us. You're just going to say, I'm using this type of reader, or I'm using my computer, and the right format should just come down to you. Once they have that functional with the ebooks, then they're going to do the same thing for audiobooks. The other thing is early returns. Right now, you can only do early returns from the Adobe Edition software. They are looking to enable that on all their e-reader applications. So the Apple application you'll be able to do early returns from. The Android application you'll be able to do early returns from, so on and so forth. So if you're downloading directly to those e-readers, you'll be able to do an early return, which is a big deal for us with the consortium because you're limited to 4 books. And we obviously have patrons that can blow through 4 books and nothing flat. And if they're using, like I said, an Android or Apple app to do it, then they don't have the ability to do returns easily, so they can get more books. Samples is going to be new. What they will be doing is when you go to get a book, you can download a sample. They're saying it will generally be first chapters of the book, and you can read the sample and then decide whether you want to go back and actually check the book out. The real drive for this is they want to make something available to the patron if the book is checked out or maybe hasn't been purchased yet by your consortium. The idea is they could at least download the sample, see if they like the book, and then want to come back and get it when it is available or put it on hold. The other thing they'll be able to do is make a request for that library to purchase the title, and if you're in charge of the OverDrive purchasing, it will drop those requests into a special cart that when you go to do your purchasing, then you can go to the patron request cart and have it purchased, or you can set it up for auto purchasing. If you get so many requests for a title, go ahead and purchase the book, so on and so forth. The one that might be a little controversial for some libraries is they're adding a buy option, and that is opt-in, whether you want your OverDrive instance to support it or not. What you'll be able to do is the patron selects a book that's not available, and you have this option turned on, they will get a option to purchase the book, and then the library gets a percentage of the sale. So that's going to be interesting to see how that comes out. They're promising significant increases in their search performance when you're looking for books and stuff. I haven't really noticed that it's been bad, but they have done some changes to their website to improve that. Another thing that was kind of fun is author Joe Conrath. My wife's a big fan of his. Attended the conference and is giving free eBooks to all the libraries that attended the Digipalooza conference. We're waiting to hear from OverDrive on the details on how we'll be able to get those free books. What's going on after the Kindle? Like I said, the Kindle is their big effort right now. It's kind of an all-hands-on-deck thing. So these are the items they will be addressing after the Kindle goes live. Early return for audiobooks is something they've got a lot of requests for. Nook Color applications, so you actually be able to download directly to your Nook. You won't have to go through the Adobe Editions on your PC. The ability to do renewals on titles. Browse, check out, and download the mobile apps. I don't know how many use an Android or an iPad, for instance, to do it. My iPad, when I go to search, I actually launch into the website, have to do my searching and check out there, and then I have to go back into the mobile app to actually do the download. They want to be able to enable that so it all happens in the app. And then the other thing is a auto dictionary spell correction. So when I am doing searching, as I type in titles and that, it will actually spell correct on the fly. So if I mistype something, it'll get corrected before I get off the search. The second day of the conference is where they had a lot of libraries get up and speak about things as far as e-collection acquisition. Spend 2/3 on eBooks, 1/3 on audiobooks. I think that's something we've seen with our coalition where they've really switched the purchasing from audiobooks to eBooks. The second part is kind of an interesting test on your purchasing from Cleveland Library, and I thought we could run through that really quick. So what they're saying to do is to go into the advanced search and then pick either all ebooks or audiobooks to see how you're doing. And then what you want to do is grab the titles that have been added within the last 14 days and do a search. So we have 267 books that have been added to the our consortium's availability. So you hang on that 267 number, go back to the search, and then what you want to do is show only titles that are available within that same period. And you'll see we have 67 books that are available. What the person from the Cleveland Library was saying is that this total of available, if it's greater than 10% of what was purchased, they were recommending that you go through this list and look and see what titles that have recently been purchased are not getting checked out. And she referred to it as kind of the dog list. It may give you some hints that, you know, some stuff that has been purchased that your patrons don't want or for some reason not aware of that you have it. And you may have to do some marketing or something to let patrons know, you know, these titles have been purchased and are available. So we go back and look at those numbers. You know, ideally we would come up with 27 or less books, and we came up with 67. So that might merit some further review. And what that librarian from Cleveland was doing is she was running this 2 or 3 times a week, once against audiobooks and once against eBooks, to validate their purchasing. And it's just kind of a quick test to see if you're doing a good job on buying the titles and the patrons are aware of them and they're going out. The recommendations for budgeting was, if you have the budget to buy all the award winners, do it. Then second level is you can buy all the finalists, do it. And then the other recommendation was buy as many of the books by award winner and finest authors as you can. You know, with the idea that the authors won a major book prize, get their backlist. Their also recommendation was, if you have a series that's a bestseller, to get the backlist for that too. The one that got a lot of moans and groans at the conference was the purchase of romance books. They think it's due to the anonymity. You know, the patrons don't have to bring romance books up to the desk. I kind of think of romance books myself. Maybe it's kind of the fast food of the reading world, but definitely just my opinion. But 2 of the libraries that spoke, and Cleveland was one of them, they're actually spending 1/3 of their ebook budget on romance, because it's what their patrons are checking out. When they bring new romance titles in, they just go like crazy. The other thing is they talked about OverDrive shared stats on their average holds to copy ratio. It was a pretty big range. The average is 6:1. So for every popular copy, you generally have 6 holds on that. The other items to note from the conference, lots of attending libraries are purchased. When I was kind of in the social areas or at lunch and dinner, I really enjoy the Freegal service that Omaha Public Library has, so I was kind of asking around about it. There's a lot of libraries, you know, looking at purchasing it or are testing it or really think about going to it. I know some folks have some issues with the fact that we're kind of actually supporting the purchasing of e-music for MP3s for patrons. Not really a check-out and return kind of thing. But then, you know, the other side of the argument is there's not a lot out there for us right now except Freegal. OverDrive did not share a lot about their new music service they're supposed to be bringing. They didn't share anything really about their new music service they've been talking about on their website. So I don't really have any details on what they're going to be offering. The rumors I kind of heard is it's going to be more of a streaming deal. So what we will be doing is basically providing a streaming subscription, kind of like a Pandora or one of those services for our clients, where they'll be able to stream music to their portable device or to their computer, but they wouldn't actually be purchasing and retaining actual MP3s of songs. Again, kind of going back to that 2-to-1 purchasing of ebooks versus audiobooks. They shared the number there. 59% is ebooks, 31% audiobooks across their user base. The Nook has really come on strong this year. It's at a 62% share. It took virtually all that share from the Sony e-reader, which was down considerably. I'm kind of wondering if the e-reader is going to be that much longer offered as a device. It seems like it's really dropping in popularity. They're expecting the Kindle to reach a 43% share of the e-readers in 2012 once they're able to support it. And then Nora Rawlson of Early Word, which is a good website. I don't know how many follow that. In her speech, she actually made the prediction that 50% of all used book sales by 2014 will be ebook instead of paper, which was very, very interesting. Kind of my takeaway, another takeaway from the conference is it sounds like OverDrive, signed a significant deal with Amazon, and it'll be interesting to see if that allows them to do a whole lot with Barnes & Noble and the Nook. They can't share a lot of details of that contract. I kind of wonder what Amazon might have gotten as far as, being the only seller to play in that. Obviously, I think they're the seller that will probably be the one that comes up when you have the buy-in option enabled. I would have to think that's part of the deal. The other thing that might be interesting is, Amazon has a lot of cash. I wonder if this OverDrive thing turns out to be very, very successful for them. If there's a chance that Amazon would consider purchasing OverDrive and taking it in-house, which is something that might be interesting to see how that plays out once this relationship takes off here later this year and with what kind of success it has. So that was kind of my update and oversight of the Digipalooza conference. Again, great conference, very well planned, very well organized, lots of good information. If you have the opportunity to go in 2013, I highly recommend it. Did anybody have any questions for me? No? Okay. Hand this back over.
Andrew?
All right, there
Hi.
we go. Sorry, we're just having a little technical difficulties getting ourselves unmuted. Okay, go ahead.
It's Laura. Thank you, Andrew. This is wonderful. This is the kind of thing that really makes us all wish we'd gone to the conference. But it's wonderful information, and it's not stuff we can always get.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of thing you really need to go to find out.
Yeah, like I said, I was really disappointed in the lack of details for the Kindle. We had so many patrons that walked in the library after the holidays for the Kindle, and were very disappointed they couldn't use it to get free books.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm waiting for that to get announced and get out.
Well, I think we're all really waiting for that. We'd like to hear a little bit, if you can tell us about the conference-going experience. Where was Digipalooza held?
It was in Cleveland. They were in the hotel. For those of you that don't know, OverDrive is based in Cleveland, and they actually started out as kind of a joint project with the Cleveland Public Library System. So they tend to be the test bed for a lot of OverDrive stuff. So a lot of the librarians that, delivered probably two of the good talks, especially the one where the example I had on covering stuff was, she was a member of the Cleveland Library and has been working with OverDrive since day one.
Ah.
So they have a lot of experience with it. And Cleveland, I've been to Cleveland years ago. It's amazing how they've cleaned up the downtown and how nice it is now. We had great social activities planned too. They did a reception in the hotel the first night. The second night we went to an area place called Corner Alley. I don't know how many people are aware of that. They're a chain. They're kind of an upscale bowling alley, and bowled and shot pool and had a good time. And then the social activity on the last night was we had dinner and a band in the VIP section of the Cleveland Browns Stadium right on the waterfront. And so that was a lot of fun. And for the price of the conference and for the information and the social activities with it, it was just a bargain. It was a great deal.
Lots of times at conferences, the whole networking with the other librarians that are there is a huge part of it, not just sitting there watching the presentations.
Did you feel that you,
and that was
did you get to meet a lot of people?
Yeah, it's one of the nice things about them covering all the meals as part of the conferences. You know, it kept the whole group together. I actively tried to move around to different tables to get to meet with other librarians. And what a lot of people don't realize is this was really an international conference. I talked to librarians from Australia, New Zealand, different countries in Europe. So that was really interesting, kind of hearing how their libraries work, kind of based on their cultural preferences to ours. And that was like the buzz on Freegal, is where a lot of that came from, was that socializing was where I was able to really ask people, you know, their opinions of Freegal and what they thought of it.
About how many people were there, do you think?
They had the registration limited to, I think it was 300 or 400 people. And they were booked solid, I think about a month and a half before the conference, they were full.
Wow. So you had to get your registration in early.
Yeah, if you're planning on going, like I said, it was an excellent conference. If you're planning on going, you'll definitely, as soon as they put up the registration for it, I would jump on it and get registered.
I think it's kind of nice they keep it to that small number of people, that it does help make it easier to, like you're saying, talk to some of the other librarians there and see what everyone's doing, rather than going to like a giant ALA conference and trying
now my
to do
guess
that.
is, you know, if they're successful, especially with Kindle, my guess is that obviously they'll have to start growing that conference size as they have more libraries that come on board. And, you know, we obviously hope them all the success, that they get more libraries into the service, and that conference does have to grow.
Well, we're glad that you found it such a worthwhile experience. Any tips on conference going for anyone who was planning to go to this one or another conference?
What was one of the real nice things about Cleveland, and because I'd been there before, is they have a great train rail system through the city. So what's really nice about Cleveland is you fly right into the airport, and then for $2.50 you can get on the train, and in 20 minutes you're downtown at your hotel. So that makes things very, very convenient also. And I like it when they kind of plan the conferences in the cities that have good public transportation, so you don't have to deal with cabs and limousines and stuff that can be very expensive.
Yeah.
The other thing is, obviously, you know, with the airlines now, you know, I paid a $25 bag fee to take a bag with me and paid $25 for a bag to come back. So it was kind of annoying was how many people were trying to carry on stuff to avoid the bag fee, which was, a couple of these people were absolutely ridiculous, everything they were trying to carry on to the plane to get out of paying the bag fee, which got a little annoying. But, you know, kind of that situation that if you used to fly a lot, I used to travel a lot for work pre-9/11, and what it's like to fly and travel after 9/11, it's obviously a lot more inconvenient to fly and get where you're going.
So you do have to make some plan ahead for those kind of issues that you might have to deal with the other travelers now, yes.
Yeah, you know, if you're, my recommendation is when you're going to conferences, you're flying, maybe if you're doing a direct flight and you can fit everything into a decent sized carry-on and save a little money and not have to check your bag, that's great. But if you're going to be changing flights at all, and the flights are full these days, it seems like none of the planes ever have enough room in the overhead bins for everything. You know, if you're going to be exchanging flights at all and traveling a lot, I recommend just checking the bag. It seems to me it was worth the extra money to spare the inconvenience of having to drag a bag around the airport with you while you're trying to get to where you're going.
Well, that's a good tip. Please remember that the grant will cover all reasonable expenses. We do have to abide by the rules that the state of Nebraska sets out about travel, but nevertheless, we do want to. We don't want to make this hard for people. We want this to be a good experience for people, so we will cover it. And we would add that our big conference-going tip has always been comfortable shoes.
Yes.
And that's one nice thing about the Digipalooza conference is it was a very casual environment, so it was a lot of t-shirts and shorts, so that makes it a lot more comfortable, obviously, for walking around the city, the different events, and in and out of the conference. The one thing I will say is it was comfortable for me. They had the air conditioner on. Really, the conference room itself was actually, I would say, chilly. So when you go to conferences like that, and they even recommended in their website that if you're a little on the cold-blooded side, to have a sweatshirt or sweater available that you can wear. And there were a lot of people that were while we were in the conference hall for the conference.
Yes, that is always a good tip, too. Bring an extra sweater or jacket because you never know what it'll be like in the rooms. We do actually have a question from the audience. Constance Mansard from Springfield Memorial Library wants to know, after speaking with other librarians, did you feel patrons are embracing eBooks and e-readers?
Yeah. I mean, the growth numbers that OverDrive put up, they are growing. From the last conference, this one, they had 200% growth. They're expecting that to continue, especially with the Kindle coming on board. And I don't think you would see that kind of growth, obviously, if the patrons weren't looking for it. And all the librarians I talked to, there weren't any that I heard any negative feedback from patrons at all, related to the service they were providing. Some of it might have been to the limitations, as my e-reader's not supported with an app, so I kind of have to go through the hassle of downloading to my computer and then moving it over. People with Apple or Android devices were very satisfied with how the app worked. And like I said, if they get the ability to be able to do returns directly from those apps, so you're not so limited to 4 books because you can't do early return, I think that'll go a big way to really solve the only 2 minor issues that we heard. They did not talk about the Kansas licensing deal going on, where Kansas has decided to pull out of OverDrive and go over to the 3M product, and they're claiming that their electric titles that they have purchased in OverDrive move with them. So that wasn't discussed or brought up. And then the other thing they kind of danced around a little was the HarperCollins 26 checkout limit. Even when the publishers got a chance to spotlight some new books they were having come out for their sponsorship of the conference, the president of OverDrive, Steve, can't think of his last name now, even got up before the HarperCollins guy said, kind of told everybody to be polite and not bring up that issue because he was not going to be there to talk about it.
Well, I suppose sometimes it helps to keep people on task, but I would hope that somebody at least managed to talk to him over dinner or something and say, we don't really appreciate that.
I'm sure they did. They did have a librarian that wanted to know if they could do away with having HarperCollins purchasing going to a separate cart, and they took a show of hands, and it was pretty much divided 50-50 by the attendees of who was boycotting HarperCollins ebook purchases and who wasn't.
Yeah. So well,
and you can see the publisher's rep was definitely uncomfortable when that was briefly discussed.
So one more question.
So basically, we're still at a point where probably the legal issues are more of a problem than the technology issues.
I would definitely say so.
That's what it sounds like, yeah. Another question from Constance. Do you think that adding OverDrive service increases new patron numbers? Does it actually bring in new patrons?
I don't know. That's hard to say. We have a lot of patrons using it in the coalition. I think it just depends on there was a person that did a presentation where they talked about the different kind of technology people. And, you've got younger people that are brought up with it and are going to use it. You've got the converters that are the older generation that are keeping up and are adapting to technology, not first moving on it, but if it becomes mainstream, they adapt it and use it. And then you have the patrons that are absolutely not going to adopt technology and utilize it. So you're always going to probably have the patron base that will not ever adapt to an e-reader and audiobook technology, and the presenter that talked about it, was trying to be polite, but they were expecting basically that population will go away over time, and we will move more and more to an electronic formatted society for virtually anything and everything.
And this is Devra. I have just a little bit of anecdotal information to maybe add to that. We do have one library in the consortium who has told us that they regularly drop what they consider inactive patrons from their barcode database once a year. And what they consider inactive are people who do not walk through their doors and check out a physical item. Well, the first time they did that, they started getting a whole bunch of phone calls from people who do not walk through their doors but are sitting at home downloading audiobooks or eBooks. So there are those patrons now who just want the electronic formats and don't necessarily come to the library. And also a little bit of other anecdotal information. We've worked with two different people who've had questions who are in their 80s and are checking out eBooks like crazy. So it depends on the personality on whether people are going to adopt this technology too.
Actually, I think maybe the older people market for these because you can make the print bigger. Mm-hmm. And so, you kind of get large type.
We have a good example here where we have a lady who's been a patron of the library here for many, many years, and now her health has gotten to the point where she's pretty much homebound, and her family, she was dependent on her family to be able to make it in the library and get her books. And I met with them before the holidays, and they were thinking about getting an e-reader for her to use, and I had recommended, I have an iPad, so I might be a little biased, but I just like how easy it is with the iPad app. You don't have to have the computer hooked up to get stuff down to it. And they had purchased her an iPad for Christmas, and then brought her in one afternoon, and I was able to work with her, and she's now virtually doing all her stuff electronically, just for the fact that she's in a care home now and cannot come into the library to get materials.
What a fabulous way to do outreach. How nice for her. That was great. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's definitely, I think, a real success story there for the ebook format where, we have a reader that's able to still, get what she wants when she wants. And her family still comes in and picks up paper books for her, too. But, she's not dependent on them to do it. She can get her own materials when she wants to.
Which I think shows that a lot of people will adapt things if they see a use for themselves. And so we do have to just keep this, we have to keep promoting it to people. We have to keep demonstrating to people. We have to keep, especially for people who are looking at our websites and are not coming into the library, then we figure out, well, how do you do a book display for somebody who's not going to come into the library? How do you show them the book reviews? Because their browsing is a little bit different experience. So we really do have to talk about not just having the books for people to download, but how we really are serving those people too.
Yeah, and the libraries whose ILS systems had the capabilities, another thing that was recommended by several presenters was if you have the ability to bring your OverDrive catalog into your ILS so that if people are searching within your catalog, that those titles are coming up in their searches as a way to help market and make them aware of the service.
Yeah, that's great.
Definitely.
Well, thank you, Andrew. This really has been wonderfully useful, terribly useful. Isn't it funny that they both sound the same way? And now Devra did have a few things to add for the people in Nebraska who are interested in OverDrive.
I'm going to pull back control. We did have one question while I'm doing this from the audience about your notes there, Andrew. And what we'll do is ask you to send me that document, and we will be able to post them up when I put the recording up for the session. Does that work for you?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
Someone wanted to know if your notes that you have up there on the screen would be available after the session. And so
I can send those to you.
Yeah, send them to me here, Krista, at the Library Commission, and then I will just post them up when we put the recording up, and then everyone can have those to refer to.
Okay, I'll shoot those to you, Krista.
Great. Thank you. All right. We now have control. Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm going to mute you now so we can switch to us. Okay.
Thanks. Yes, thank you, Andrew. One of the things that I wanted to do, since I did have the advantage of seeing Andrew's notes before the presentation this morning, I did also go in and look at our statistics or the group's statistics and compare them to some of the things that people were suggesting. And a lot of the points that were made are very valid. This particular screen that you're looking at is the interface for our Nebraska group of libraries. If you get your OverDrive books through a different library, through a different group, your page will look a little bit different. OverDrive allows each of us to customize things, but there are some common themes, common features, such as the marketing right up front, where you can browse for new eBooks, browse new audiobooks, etc. Excuse me. And as Andrew said, you can go in and look to see, what's come in the last 7 days, 14 days, etc. When I did that, yes, we do have quite a few of the newest books that are still available. However, I found a lot of those books were purchased based on requests that we fill in series. For some reason, the publishers don't necessarily always make all of the titles in a series available right away or all at the same time if they're filling in a series that they're just making available now. So, and patrons, of course, when they get hooked on a series, want to read all the titles. Well, we went in last week and purchased a couple hundred books that filled in series, and I noticed that the number one of a lot of those series was not only checked out but had holds on it, while the later books in the series weren't necessarily checked out. But we do try to keep track of what is popular. One of the things that we do, that the group does basically, is offer suggestions for purchasing titles. There are two main selectors that are librarians from participating libraries in the group. One chooses the adult fiction titles both in ebooks and audio, and the other one chooses the adult nonfiction and the juvenile titles. Usually they buy one copy of a book to start with, whether it's audio or ebook. However, if they know that a particular title is going to be really popular, they'll go ahead and purchase 2 copies. Then based on the number of holds that accumulate on any particular title, they will purchase additional copies. So some books have 1 copy and some books have as many as 6 copies. It just depends on demand. A couple things I do want to point out that are also sort of in beta that OverDrive has been working on is the My Help, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. They do offer help on getting started with both the audiobooks and the ebooks. And if you go through this, it goes back to the idea of what kind of a device am I using. So you can choose the type of device you have. So say you have a Nook or a Nook Color, it will walk you through some of the steps of getting set up on that particular ebook. I will do that. Okay. Once you pull up a results list, Sherman was talking about the fact that eventually, hopefully sometime this year, they are going to be taking out the idea of you have to know what kind of format an item is. And this is what he was talking about. For example, the first title here is a PDF ebook, and the second one is an EPUB ebook. They won't both necessarily work on all devices. Some devices you can only do one, some devices the other, some devices can do both. But with the new changes, that won't matter anymore, okay?
Right.
We, as a group, we do purchase mostly ebook format because that seems to be the most adaptable format. But there are some titles that are only available as PDFs, and in that case, that's what is purchased. Okay.
I have one question.
Sure.
About, and I'm not sure if this is what you kind of mentioned earlier when you were talking about how the books are purchased. What's the commission's policy on multiple copies? Do we really
Okay.
have a policy?
There are certain things that the Library Commission does. The Library Commission provided grant funding basically to start up the consortia, and we do a lot of coordinating and managing of the group. We pay the maintenance fees. We handle invoicing libraries and paying the OverDrive bills. We handle the paperwork for new libraries that join. We help with tech support. We coordinate training for library staff. We handle patron authentication for libraries that don't have an ILS system that can authenticate their patrons. We organize the group to discuss issues and things of that nature. But for policy issues, the group decides as a whole. We coordinate that through doing votes through SurveyMonkey on different issues, but things like what's the maximum number of copies that are purchased, or how much of the budget is spent on a particular format or a particular, well, we actually have 3 categories: adult fiction, adult nonfiction, and the juvenile. And that's the budget is split between those 3 areas, and within those areas it's split between ebooks and audiobook purchases. The group as a whole determines by the budget line what is going to be spent in each area. They also decide the length of the circulation period for the materials. They decide how many items a patron can check out. So the 4 items per patron limit was decided by the group at one point. So I hope that answers that your questions there. Let me see, what else was I going to point out here? Some of the numbers that Sherm had that I believe were probably from Cleveland Public Library or one of the other public libraries showed a much higher circulation of ebooks, or it implied that ebooks were in the higher demand than audiobooks. And in Nebraska, that hasn't quite been the case, at least so far. Now, the group started circulating items first in 2008, and at that time, the collection only consisted of audiobooks. We only started purchasing ebooks in July 2010, so we've had ebooks for just about a year. The audiobook collection right now contains a little over 3,000 titles with a couple extra, well, I'll give you exact numbers. There are 3,225 titles, but 3,430 copies of audiobooks. With the ebooks, we are catching up pretty quickly. There are 2,206 titles and 2,311 copies, okay? If you looked at the what items are checked out today, about 57% of the items that are checked out are ebooks, and 43% are the audiobooks. So the audiobooks are still really popular. And if you look at, because the checkout periods for audiobooks are different than for ebooks, the overall statistics for the past few months still show that there are more there are still more audiobook titles being checked out than ebooks, but the demand for ebooks is very high. Okay, and I definitely agree with Sherman on the marketing. We need the libraries to continue to promote the service to not only patrons that walk through the door, but they need to reach out to patrons who maybe have never come in before but might be interested in checking out ebooks because they are so popular.
I do have a question
Yes.
from someone about, kind of like what you're talking about statistics and stuff. It's actually two different questions from Laura Hess at Stanton. Does OverDrive purchase count as part of our book budget, which I think is their decision? We don't tell them where it comes
Okay,
from.
the question is, does OverDrive count as part of their book budget?
Yeah. I think that'd be up to them.
Yeah, I think that's part of your decision. It would come all under how you already divide your budget out by format. If you already divide it by print books and audio books, etc., this is another format. So you would treat it the same way.
That might have to do with the accreditation,
Okay.
where they ask that
Then
you
she
have
does also
certain amounts,
follow up.
and we'd have to ask Richard about that for the final answer. But I think yes, it would count.
She does also ask then, connected to that, is there a way of keeping track of circulations for our statistics report?
Yes.
So,
All of the participating libraries can log in to the to an OverDrive interface where you can get statistics specifically for your library, or for each participating library can do this. The statistics can be broken down between both the audiobooks and the ebooks, and it can be broken down by day, by month, by a variety of ways. So yeah, they do provide a really good smorgasbord of statistics. Let me see, what else was I going to say on that? Okay. I think I'm going to hop over to our page where, we, on the Nebraska Library Commission website, there is a page that talks about the OverDrive Consortia, okay? Our OverDrive Consortia is open to any Nebraska library, public library, that is. And on this page, it does talk a bit about OverDrive, our group. There is a link that goes to what kind of devices will work with both the audiobooks and the ebooks. As I mentioned, the group started in 2008. At that time, there were 25 libraries participating. The group has grown. As of the end of this particular year, and our year runs from October 1st to September 30th, there are 66 participating libraries. Starting in October 1st, you'll notice we have a number of libraries already listed here joining October 2011. We are currently up to 79 libraries because an additional 13 have completed all the paperwork needed to join the group, and we have more that are in the process. Okay? At the bottom of this page, you'll find information both on pricing and on how to start the paperwork to join the consortia. The deadline for joining for this full coming year is August 31st. The first thing that is required is to complete the OverDrive participation form. So this needs to be printed out, filled out, or actually I think for this particular one all we need is a signature, and then returned to us. If you do have any questions about the group, you can contact either myself or Susan Nisley. Susan is actually the one who does the vast majority of the paperwork for us and talking with librarians. She also does a lot of the tech support. You will not hear from a lot of the patrons who use this service because they have absolutely no problems at all and everything just works hunky-dory. Occasionally, there are some people who have a bit of a problem first setting up the service or down the road. You know, they've for example, we had this problem with people who were trying to download audiobooks that were 16 hours long over a dial-up connection.
Oh,
okay.
dear.
Does not work. There is a limit of 3 downloads per checkout, but that is something that we can reset. Okay, so sometimes the librarians, instead of trying to figure out how to do that themselves, would just call us. We just go in, reset it, and gently suggest that the patron in the future just download a few parts at a time, because audiobooks are not provided in one large file, they're provided in parts. So there are ways to overcome a lot of the technical issues that people run into. So librarians who aren't really familiar with e-reader devices or other things, we do some training. We are here to provide help. If we can't provide the help, we go to OverDrive. OverDrive is looking at providing a service, hopefully sometime in the near future, where they would be willing to take on a lot of those issues.
I have a question
Yes.
about, and I assume this is from Karen Meyer at Plattsmouth Public Library. How easy is it to download the titles to our ILS? I assume she means the MARC records.
Okay. Okay. MARC records. At the very it's a little bit of a longer story. At the very beginning, the group was purchasing MARC records from OCLC. Okay. Along the way, the group voted the group did have to pay for those MARC records, and along the way they decided that it was confusing to have MARC records in their catalog for items that weren't on the shelf, and they didn't want to spend the money on it. People couldn't figure it out. But I think as people get more and more familiar with this particular format, it's not such a big issue anymore. Okay, so we still have the files of all of those OCLC MARC records from the initial titles. Okay, then recently one of the participating libraries contacted us to say they would like to have MARC records. How can we do a workaround, since the group as a whole did not want to pay for those MARC records? Well, instead of the MARC records, we get a spreadsheet with very simple information, basically author, title, ISBN, what shows up in the OverDrive interface. Okay, so it just happened that particular library worked with an ILS where the company agreed, they have an automated system, to take that spreadsheet of data and crosswalk it to MARC records. So now we do have MARC records available for all of the titles in the collection, that if any library wants to download those. You will need to contact Susan Nisley, and she can get you set up with the MARC records that are currently available and get you on an email list where you will then be notified of you'll be sent the new MARC records for the newest purchases. Okay? And we are getting close to being about out of time, so we'll ask for final questions.
Sure, yeah, if anybody has any final questions, send them in through the questions interface there. I do have one comment here that actually came from Susan. Susan Nisley, she's watching in another room in our offices here. In reference to Laura's comment about finding new ways to have book displays for patrons who don't come into the library. She says that her mother actually likes the OverDrive interface better than her library's catalog because of the book summaries that are front and center on the detailed record screen. And she's actually expanded the genre she reads since starting to use OverDrive.
Oh, that's great.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So any last questions, comments, anything you want to say before we close up for the day?
Okay.
Nothing
Well,
urgent coming in.
yeah. So just to remind you, you can contact Susan or you can contact me if you have any questions about how the consortia works, if you're interested in joining, if you have any questions about OverDrive in general, just contact us.
Okay. And we do want to say thank you so much to Andrew. And we do want to remind people that the conference going experience is a great one, and it is available to you through a CE grant. So they will be available October 12th, and we'd really love to see you apply for a grant. Thanks.
Okay. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. That will wrap it up for today's NCompass Live. And I hope you'll join us next week when our topic is Birds Do It, Bees Do It, Sexual Health Resources. Siobhan Champ-Blackwell from the National Libraries of Medicine will be here to talk about reliable resources on sexual health, tips on handling reference interview, and resources for teens and anyone who may be coming into your libraries looking for this kind of information. So she will be with us next Wednesday. So go to our website and register for that one. So I don't see any final questions coming in at the end, so I think we're all good. Thank you, Sherm. Thank you, Laura and Devra, everyone. This is a lot of good information.
Thank you, Krista. Yes, thank you.
So, and we will see you next time on NCompass Live. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.